Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the All Sports Club podcast. Oh gosh, start again. It's kicked in.
5 seconds,
Whoa.
it kicked in. This is going to be a real short
Should not
podcast.
have had that wine first. Welcome to the All Sports podcast with me, Matt, and today, Joel. How are you, mate?
Hello, Matt. I'm all good, thanks. How you doing?
Not bad at all. And James, how are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you.
Brilliant. Let us get into the weekend or week's worth of sport. We had the first football cup final this weekend. Heavy favourites Liverpool against Newcastle. Someone give us a summary?
Don't know if they were heavy favourites, but they would have been favourites, yeah. I mean, I love cup finals. Cup finals are just great, aren't they? Like, there's so much on the line, and I think having a fan base like Newcastle's there makes it extra special. Like, obviously meant a lot to them on the day, and there's lots of history around Newcastle and Wembley and Newcastle and cups in general. Obviously, since the takeover, they've been looking for something to kickstart this new era as well. So I think all of those things kind of amalgamated into a bit of a fever pitch atmosphere. It was interesting that how in the interviews before the game, he said that they stayed away from Wembley. Last year when they were in the cup final, they stayed at the hotel, which is right next to Wembley. Mm. And he didn't say himself that...
Eddie Howe, you're talking.
Yeah. He didn't say himself that they got caught up in it, but I mean, it suggests that they did if they've kind of moved them away from the stadium, tried to treat it like any other game, whatever. And yeah, Newcastle were brilliant. I thought Liverpool were very, very poor on the day, but mostly I think because Newcastle just completely overran them in terms of intensity. Their midfield was well on top of Liverpool throughout the whole game. They picked up so many second balls. Like, there were lots of first balls, but when they didn't win the first ball, they picked up the second ball as well. And that just meant that Liverpool couldn't really ever get anything going. They scored at good times. Newcastle got their first goal just before half-time. Dan Burn from a corner. That felt like it had been coming, those corners to the back post, and I think it was McAllister marking Burn for the whole time. And I think Newcastle had 2 or 3 corners before that, but Liverpool didn't really react to it and eventually paid the price just before half-time. And then Newcastle scored very quickly after half-time. That one was ruled out. Literally 30 seconds later, scored again. And at that point, I feel like Slot just threw everything that he could at it. Liverpool's structure went out the window. At one point, he had Chiesa, Gakpo, Salah, Nunez, Elliott, and Jones. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, Szoboszlai as well, maybe all on the pitch.
Yeah, I agree.
Darwin he brought on, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, at one point, if he'd gone to extra time, they'd have been wrecked anyway.
Yeah, what would they have done?
It was ruined. I think it was a bit of a perfect storm of a cup final. You think Newcastle very much had to play on that emotion. Like, you see them in Champions League games at home where the crowd is so behind them. It's such a horrible place to go. And there's some games where it's a bit flat there and it seems like quite an easy place to go. They had to play on that emotion and almost make it as combative as possible, and they did. Like, what it came down to was the duels. Like, they were winning every duel, every ball in the air, every second ball they were there to. And there's probably a couple of reasons behind that. I think from a Liverpool perspective, those 120 minutes on Tuesday night did them no favours. And to get knocked out in the Champions League would have been a little bit of a rocker to some of their players. I do think that in that sense, the game came at a perfect time for Newcastle. And I'd also say Liverpool's squad has never been deep enough to compete on 4 fronts this season. Like, I mentioned it after the FA Cup game, to go after the Prem, the Champions League, and a domestic cup. You have to have some serious rotation options, which I do think Slot has to an extent, but he doesn't like using them. So Chiesa's only played about 60 minutes of Premier League football this year, and I thought when he came on, he was great. But yeah, it all felt like a bit of a perfect storm, and Newcastle were just fantastic.
You're on mute.
Liverpool squad depth. It feels like they bring players on when someone's not playing well. It doesn't feel like strategic that they're doing it. And it also sometimes feels like he doesn't know his best 11, and that's why there's the rotation.
I think up until the last couple of weeks, you'd have said that Slot had played his squad management very well. I think he chose times to leave certain players out, but never really tinkered more than 2 or 3 changes, and it felt like it was working. But the last couple of weeks, PSG first, the first leg and the second leg, and then this game yesterday. I can't remember who they played in the league between maybe it was Southampton, so not really a factor. And yeah, I feel like it's all caught up with them all at once. It is coinciding with seemingly everyone in the front three. Whoever he plays there is running cold. Jota hasn't scored for a good few months now.
Gakpo's been injured.
Gakpo's been injured. Nunes is obviously doing what he's doing. Diaz has lost his way a little bit.
I think it's been months of him not having faith in Diaz.
Yeah.
Diaz has got one goal in 17 games. Jota's 19 games. Gakpo's obviously had a bit of a nice purple patch, but he got injured. So a lot of that reliance fell on Salah, and he's a 34-year-old player who's played, the 9th amount of minutes in the Prem this year. He's not getting the rest that he needed because they're competing on all these fronts. And people are going to talk about this season as a failure because they're only in contention for one trophy, but they're 12 points ahead of the Premier League. It's still a very solid season. They just need to invest in some depth.
Everyone in the Prem would take the Prem, except for City, who want the Champions League.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to touch on Newcastle, like I say, it's a bit of a culmination of since the takeover, I suppose. What are we talking? We're talking 2.5 years since the takeover, something like that. It's their second cup final in that time, got over the line in this one, and something now for them to kind of rally around. I think it's a big factor in terms of keeping players. Winning things, obviously really important, and they've confirmed Europe now, so that kind of takes the pressure off a little bit in the league. Obviously, they still want to get Champions League.
There's Conference League or Europa League?
Europa for winners, I believe.
Okay, well, that's at least something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess it's 5 for Champions League, and they look like they've got every chance. So.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it'd be interesting to see how they now respond. Like, obviously, we've seen teams win trophies and then tail off a little bit in the league season, but they don't look like a side who are ready to do that the way that they play, the intensity that they play with. I think Joe Linton is a big player for them, not just physically, but metaphorically as well. And he's back now and fully fit and going into the last 9-10 games of the season. They've still got a game in hand, so 10 games of the season, he's going to be a huge factor for them. But for me, their recruitment, I struggle to think of many they've got wrong. They've spent a lot of money, but any money they've spent has worked. So Guimaraes was maybe 60. I think Isak was about the same. Gordon was about 40. Tonali was about 70. But then, even the supplemental ones, like Dan Burn, who's been unbelievable. Obviously, he's got that kind of local boy factor as well. Livramento, Trippier, they haven't cost loads of money, but they've just gelled really nicely.
Yeah, the only one I would say that's got this question mark because of his injuries was Botman, but he should have always been a great signing for them. He just can't stay fit. It did feel like Sunday it's not the culmination because they'll go on to do so many things, but it's the first box for them in the takeover to win a cup after 90 years. And I think it was quite nice because Trippier was the first player to sign in this rebuild, and he actually had one of his best games in a year.
He was quite funny. I felt like in the first half he was pretending to be calm.
Yeah.
He's one of those players that plays right on the edge, and then just the camera will pan to him and he'll just be making this nonchalant gesture, and it's just mate, you are pumped. You actually need to calm down.
It's even Pope as well. Even Pope was one of the early acquisitions, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think the really shrewd thing from Eddie Howe was Pope came back in and he wasn't in good form in his first few games. He could have easily been hooked. But Eddie Howe knew this was probably the biggest moment of their season, so he's had to play him in the Prem. He's probably made 2 or 3 quite big mistakes, but he was great on Sunday. So that's just really, really good management.
Speaking of good management,
sorry lads, I was asleep.
I'll be speaking to your agent after this.
I've had the longest day. I can't lie.
Sleep on probation is quite impressive.
There you go.
Good.
Well, he thinks after the quiz it's all signed, sealed, delivered, doesn't he? So he took his foot off the gas.
I can't lie, I have missed you guys though. My Monday last week felt so empty. About work, went about everything, and just felt like something was missing, and it's so good to be back.
Oh, all's forgiven, Femi. All's forgiven.
especially senior faces as well.
So we've just been speaking about the League Cup final. I think that covers it. That covers it fairly well. On to the England squad then. Nod to Femi's top.
On time.
What do we think to Tommy Tuchel's first squad?
I think it's an indication of the job that he's been given. He's clearly been asked to go and win the World Cup in 18 months' time, and he's going to pick squads and build a team as quickly as possible with no real requirement to, blood any youngsters, builders for the future. Doesn't have to put any foundations in. It's just got to build on the squad that was already there. I think the biggest inclusion in that is, we've already mentioned Dan Burn at 32 getting his England debut. He's going to get big physical players, which is, one of the big traits about the Premier League is how physical it is, and we don't really use that in major tournaments. And I've got a feeling that's what Tuchel will be basing his squads around.
Yeah, you're right. England could put a really big side out, actually. Just looking at the list now, like you say, Byrne is in, Colwell's in. He's a massive guy, isn't he? Reece James is in. I haven't seen Livramento in there previously, but he's there. That's interesting.
Yeah, I do think
Quansah, I mean, the only reason he can be in there is for his size, right?
I mean, he did not have a good game on Sunday.
He did not have a good game at all, no.
But I think if you think Trent's fit, he's probably not there.
Yeah, he's probably not in.
But I think the interesting one will be the formation, because I know he's sort of tinkered between a back three and a back four at times. So I wonder what we'll see at England level.
For me, this is an indication of the sort of manager Tuchel is. Like, if you're expecting exciting football or any sort of flair, any sort of, Boga Janito, as the Brazilians call it, or football, as the Brazilians call it as well, like, forget it. Like, this is a man, this is straight business with him. Of, football on another level. And, if you're defensive at club level, imagine at international level where most teams play a defensive style anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, any sort of excitement for Tuchel being an England manager, I think that just goes out the window, especially when you look through your squad. You're seeing Jordan Henderson in 2025 is a bizarre pick. And, he could have gone for Morgan Gibbs-White, but he decided to go for experience and a player who's more defensive. And you're probably going to see Jordan Henderson, Declan Rice, and Jude Bellingham in that midfield, which tells you all you need to know. Similar to what Southgate was like with Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. So
Henderson won't start, will he?
Yeah.
He won't start Henderson.
He's a leadership pick. If Maguire's fit or Stones is fit, Henderson isn't there for me. He's a leadership pick.
You'll be surprised.
I'll see it. The one that really surprised me when we were talking about physicality and defensive football and putting in the yards is I thought Gallagher was like destined to be.
Conor Gallagher, yeah. First name's on my team sheet.
Yeah.
That's the one that really confused me.
He's not been playing as much.
I mean, he did score.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he played the second leg. He started the second leg. He didn't start the first.
Yeah, he didn't start.
He's been being rotated basically on that left hand side of midfield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right though. Like, especially considering they would have worked together at Chelsea. Is that right, or was Gallagher out on loan?
Could have been there.
I think he could have been there actually.
Why he's not there?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if Tuchel put him back out on loan, then it kind of answers the question as to why he's not in his squad.
Yeah, he's got good records wherever he's gone, though. He tends to average about 2 points a game. I know he's managed big teams, and that's sort of the expectation. But we need a manager who's going to win football games. Like, we don't need a really flashy qualification stage like we always do, and then we turn up and play like just bad football. There's no real pattern of play before. Whereas at least Tuchel, it might be defensive, but you'll see how we're trying to play the game.
Not to go off a tangent, but when you deep it, like, how the hell did Gareth Southgate get the England job? Like,
because it was all about the timing.
No credentials.
It had been Allardyce, hadn't it?
Hell.
He got the.
There was a situation, a situation
that needed to be dealt with.
The agents.
He was initially only an interim.
Yeah.
He just did too well.
But he was an FA man, and it was always a job of like leadership transformation rather than team. Like, he had to transform the whole FA, the whole structure. And to his credit, he has done that. He has turned us from a team that were doing very little to 2 finals, a semi-final. And if you're going to judge him by that criteria, he did a great job. But he wasn't.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, that's, I mean, in hindsight, of course. Like, but just prior, like, his credentials. I mean, he has a relegation on his CV, and that's as good as it gets. Huh?
Was he 21's manager before?
Yeah,
he was. Yeah,
he was a company man that got a promotion.
Yeah, exactly. The company man. how a lot of us wish to rise up the ranks.
It's the Peter principle at its best, I guess. You get promoted to your point of inadequacy.
Yeah, Femish found that one already.
You lot go read that book.
But yeah, so is the first game Friday night?
Friday night, and then
Friday night Albania, and then Monday Latvia.
It feels weird because we've known this has been coming for so long. Because obviously Tuchel got appointed in November or something, but we haven't seen him actually play a game yet. So yeah, I'm honestly quite excited for it because it's a winning manager coming into a team full of good players.
Oh yeah, he's a huge name in the world of
Yeah.
coaches.
he's one of the biggest international coaches. Like, how many times do you, like, even that Spanish guy, he just came out of nowhere, didn't he? He was managing the under-21s, wasn't it, or something like that, and not really a household name nationally, let alone globally. Tuchel's a household name globally for football fans.
That's facts.
So far, he's in the media as well. I think he's done everything right. He's handled some tough questions. Like I saw a German journalist asking him questions in German. He was like, "Look, I'm going to answer in English. I'm the England manager." Like I feel like he's going about it the right way. And this squad isn't going to warm a lot of people up to him, but I feel like he's got a task at hand and he's going to give it a good go.
Very tough question.
Yeah.
From one England team to another, England rugby. That was a bit.
Well, the Scots.
Oh, that was a bit.
It's a favour, are they?
That was a bit of fun to watch. The thing is, so the Six Nations reached its culmination last weekend. Wales, we've spoken about it before, that there's this restriction on picking players that only play in the Welsh region, same as it is in the English Premiership. But the Welsh regions are in dire trouble. The national team is a reflection of that. They've now lost 17 on the bounce. So this fixture was probably only going to go one way, with England getting better and better in each game of the Six Nations. So in the end, England won by 10 tries to 2. So it was a bit of an obliteration. It was 68-14, and England just kept going. They got...
Has that always been the case?
Sorry?
Is that Wales rule new? Do they have Welsh internationals always have to play in the domestic game?
It's not overly new. Probably about 5 to 7 years.
Probably explains the decline over the last 5 years.
One of the challenges is that they've got players that would want to play in the English Premiership. There's good money contracts that are there and in France that they then can't do. But that's one thing. So the last time, Warren Gatland, who hasn't been England manager, just Wales manager. The last time he was Wales manager, he then left. I think it was in 2019, and then in 2020 with Wayne Pivac, they won the Six Nations, and I said that is the last time they will ever win the Six Nations, because with the players that they had retiring, it was a generation. There was like generational talent that was going. And with what was happening in the regions and the finances, and then with COVID, there was just no way the Welsh regions were going to recover, and they haven't. So 68-14 is kind of the culmination of all of that. And Wales have loved beating England previously over the last 10-12 years, so it's nice to get one back. I even found myself at the end of the game feeling a little bit sorry, like, because some of those players, you're 7 tries down and then England just keep coming and scoring more tries.
I was surprised. I watched the back end of the Scotland game. The second half, I thought they looked really bright, and I was like, "Oh, then maybe they're like coming of age a little bit, and yeah, they're going to go through some a couple of years of badness, and they're all quite."
This
young
was
players.
Wales against Scotland, yeah.
Yeah, so in the second half of the Welsh-Scotland game, they did look a bit brighter, but yeah, they were pretty poor on Saturday. And then, what was it? So we needed Scotland, so the permutations were...
Yeah, what would the permutations have needed to be for England to win?
Yeah, just needed Scotland to beat France, because France just needed 4 points to win. They had a points difference of like over 100. So even though England scored 68 points, it just weren't going to catch them.
Not loads of extra motivation there for the Scots, is there?
No, yeah, exactly. So France comfortably beat them, didn't get out of third gear, and beat them 35-16. So that was a very comfortable one. And then in the other fixture, Ireland scraped to a 22-17 win, and it was a very scrappy game against Italy, and it wasn't enjoyable. They both played a very defensive game. which wasn't particularly enjoyable to watch. They played a bit of a territory game, not wanting to hold on to the ball, or not able to hold on to the ball, because Italy actually disrupted that for Ireland. So Italy played well in this tournament. They gave Ireland a good run, challenged England at times, cut England to pieces with their attack at times, and obviously they did beat Wales. So wooden spoon, the overall losers, goes to Wales, who only picked up 3 bonus points, no wins and 5 losses. So a very sorry tournament.
I'd have said, had England have won it, the best team wouldn't have won it. I don't think. I think, having watched the France game, they put down so many chances. Like, they could have put England away at Twickenham. And then having watched England against Ireland, they looked a little bit outclassed. So
yeah,
it would have been great watching England win it, but I don't think they weren't the right winners.
I agree with you. I said England versus France, the best team didn't win.
Yeah.
France, I thought could have won that at any point. But England managed to scrape to a win in that game, and then Ireland were the better team against England as well. So England coming second is a good bonus. But I think you can only beat who's in front of you, and so beating Wales by such a big margin, it reflects well on England, but it's also just a testament to how Wales are doing in rugby right now.
It's a weird one, because I don't know if it papers over the cracks of England's problems or it's the next wave of England and they're coming on. I don't really know which one.
It could be interpreted that England have played both ways. Like they've battled to victory against France with disciplined performance, but also blown away the 2 poor teams. So they've shown some flexibility.
Yeah, and I think the change putting Marcus Smith back and having Finn Smith in is one that's settled now. It doesn't feel like they're going to chop and change, at least for now anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I think what's happened in this tournament, playing 5 games fairly close together, is they've been able for the first time to play a chunk of games, have a lot of time together and really understand the squad. So I think they've progressed a lot as a team through that. And how they played against Wales, like I said, you can only beat who's in front of you. However, the manner that they did it was very professional and ruthless. It wasn't high risk. They did all the fundamentals right, and that's what was very promising. They bullied them with their scrum and their forwards. Their back rows were winning turnovers and dominating the rucks. And then the back line, led by now Finn Smith with Marcus Smith at 15, they were clinical. And it wouldn't really matter too much who was on the other side of the pitch for how they were playing. They would have given Ireland, France, South Africa, New Zealand a very good run for their money with the way they played.
Yeah, I'd say the best thing to watch, having watched it, was how quickly they progressed. The first 2 games it was almost like, I wouldn't say they weren't nervous, but they were kicking a lot. They weren't convinced by their own ability. Whereas that win against France was like, oh, actually, we can do this. And you saw the belief of the next 3 games really ramp up, which was good to watch.
I think you're right, yeah. I think it looked like they were not confident in their own abilities. They weren't confident to bully in a scrum and to win physically with their forward pack. And they didn't trust the backs with the moves, or even to know who their back 7 were. I don't think they knew who their back 7 were particularly, other than knowing that Alex Mitchell's definitely your starting number 9, and then Tommy Freeman's on one wing, maybe Olo Lawrence, maybe Henry Slade, but they're still chopping and changing in the midfield. Yeah, and now it feels a little bit more established and settled, so they will go away and play a couple of games in the summer, but the next big test will be the autumn internationals later on this year. That will be good, the litmus test for how well they're doing when they play against the Southern Hemisphere teams. Next sport, give me another.
Golf, isn't it?
Golf, the unofficial 5th major.
We're educating Femi as we go. I mean, it's probably only a quick one, isn't it? Rory sort of showed that he can play golf in March and April, which is good. This is the best prep he could possibly have going into the Masters. So
he's won 2 tournaments now, 2 tournaments in the first couple of months of the year. So it is the best possible preparation for the Masters, which is, for Rory, possibly the worst preparation for the Masters.
Actually, the first time he's won twice in America before a Masters. So the stats are there. He definitely looks like his game is trending in the right direction. And if you look at the way he finishes, if you take his finishes in isolation, people say, oh, Rory can't close, but he is playing unbelievably.
Yeah, I saw I saw him in the playoff today, so they had to come back and play because of the storms yesterday. It got delayed 4 hours, and they couldn't play the playoff last night, so they came back and played that this afternoon. And he seemed really happy with his game, and he hit an 8-iron into the 18th green. It's just like a 3/4 shot, and he turned.
So what's
Don't worry. And he turned and he said to his caddy, "That shot is going to carry us for a lot of tournaments." So he's like adding shots to his game, and it was difficult conditions today. 20 to 40 mile an hour blustery winds. So it was difficult. And he played some really nice shots. So I mean, JJ Braun was just he was up against a much better competitor who plays who's played a lot of match play over the years too.
Yeah, Rory's biggest problem will be Rory. I don't know if you saw the clip of him on Thursday steal that kid's phone because they were chirping at him in the crowd.
No, I didn't see that.
joking.
Yeah, walks over to this guy, just takes his phone and walks off. And then the next day, he's, you know, in golf you get like people shouting from the crowd. He hits this drive down 18, and someone shouts out, "Give me back my phone!" And he turns around and gives him daggers. Yeah, he's losing his head a little bit on that.
It turns out the guy that heckled him is like up and coming talent on the tour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the tour, kid.
It's a good sign that Rory had a bit of a wobble round 3 though, and then came into round 4 and bounced back, played well. So I think we've seen in the past that he can spiral when something like that happens. So hopefully it means he's in a good spot mentally, ready to be competitive at the Masters.
Yeah, a couple of weeks' time we'll do some Masters predictions.
Femi, you're going to be great at that. Can't wait to see who you pick. Tiger Woods.
I'll get you a hat with some names in, mate.
Yeah, but Tiger Woods, he's out for the season, isn't he?
Yeah, he ruptured his Achilles hitting golf.
How do you do that?
Honestly.
Hitting golf balls, he did it.
No, rupturing your Achilles is meant to be one of the most unbearable pains in sport, isn't it?
Yeah, how did he do it?
Hitting golf balls.
Yeah.
I've not seen him hit a golf ball in years. He barely plays. That's probably the issue.
He's the bionic man. He's made of glass.
Isn't he just? But still, when you see him in the tailor-made clips, that guy has got phenomenal talent still and always will have. Right.
Crazy.
One more sport. Give me F1.
F1? I actually caught the F1 as well.
Did you?
Well, who stayed up? Let's start with them.
So it's not stayed up if you sleep and get up. So I got up, I awoke and watched the F1. A bit of a stunted start. The rain, as we know, regularly has a massive impact on Formula One.
Crashes.
Nice to get the FIA in nice and early in the season, causing controversy as well.
Yeah. They've got their technical directive change as well after this weekend, which will hopefully close the gap. So some backstory. Essentially, McLaren have a rear wing that becomes a mini DRS that everyone's been complaining about, and they're pretty much closing the rules. So it should bring them back a little bit closer to the rest.
Who has that?
McLaren.
Mercedes.
McLaren. If you looked, I looked at the highlights on Sunday. I think within like 4 or 5 laps, they pulled 15 seconds on Verstappen. I was like, oh, yeah, good season. But yeah, I think when I saw there was rain and the amount of rookies that were on the grid, I knew it was going to be bedlam, and it was just a good watch.
It was a good watch, and what it showed was the value of having experience in your team. And although saying that, Alonso went out.
Sainz as well.
Yeah, Sainz did.
Sainz's one was interesting because he crashed his car early, and then there's a clip of him afterwards. He was like doing the strategy for Alex Albon. He was like saying when the changeover was for him. So
That's
he was still
interesting.
managing, and they got a good like P5 finish. So I did really like Carlos Sainz.
I'm gonna that's one of the strongest. It's one of the strongest driver lineups.
Yeah.
Albon and Sainz for Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Norris, the McLarens were just so good this weekend. Piastri probably did 55 perfect laps, and the one that he didn't, he spun and put it on the grass. Did he finish 10th in the end?
9.
He came 9th. A Ferrari, a little-known Ferrari driver by the name of Lewis Hamilton, collected his first point in a Ferrari. The Ferraris had a bit of an instant towards the end of the race. So yeah, let's just go sequentially. I mean, we won't go totally sequentially, but yeah. Actually in reverse sequence.
The opposite of sequentially, I like that.
Oscar, where do you go with this?
So I guess sequentially from the end of last season, it was the Norris and Verstappen show. And Norris won this one, and it didn't look like he had to try too hard to beat Verstappen. I think that Verstappen was applying pressure, but Verstappen was on the absolute limit of what that Red Bull can do. I think it's quite...
I mean, with the safety cars, that race is a blowout. But
Yeah.
I mean, he showed a little bit of pace. He showed a bit of bottle to close it out. So he looks like probably the man to beat this year. Norris in the McLaren. But his
Maybe.
big,
I think Piastri's going to be his closest.
yeah, agreed. But from what I've seen from like the comments, Fred Vasseur was essentially saying that wasn't Ferrari. They're expecting them to be much more, quicker in a.
So Fred Vasseur is the team principal of Ferrari.
Yeah, so I think that Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull pack is going to be so close.
Well, the Ferrari, so the interesting thing about the Ferrari and why Leclerc came 8th and Hamilton came 10th was they were still on dry weather tyres on a soaking wet track, and they were taking a gamble that the track was drying up and they were going to stay out. But then they bottled their gamble, brought them in, put them on intermediate tyres, and then they went right down the pack. So
they wouldn't have survived. That's the Ferrari specialist strategy, i.e. the wrong one.
Yeah. It's what they do best.
Yeah, so I think that's Hamilton's first taste of the Ferrari way. But yeah, they were never going to... If they'd stayed out, one of them would have crashed.
He already got a little frustrated on the radio with the strategist, did Hamilton.
Yeah, you boys should have a look at the... they do like these videos afterwards of like all the best bits from the... What do you call them? The over-the-comms, the team strategies. And Leclerc's going, I think something's leaking in the car. There's water everywhere. And he goes, copy, it's raining.
He said, copy. Yeah, he said, copy, that'll be the water.
They're not the brightest, but it's always amazing.
But very funny. Anyway, probably the biggest winner of the weekend wasn't Norris, but it was Kimi Antonelli, who came...
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a great result.
Yeah,
isn't it?
coming fourth behind Russell. I mean, Russell, I think, is going to quietly mop up the points and just be consistently good. He's really started to speak out and be the leader in the team and has wanted to position himself as such. Came across a little bit in the Drive to Survive documentary, and you're seeing it in their appearances together. Antonelli just looks like this little child tagging along with his older brother. Is literally how it looks everywhere they go. On to China next week, so we'll catch that one and we'll catch you next Monday. And if you've enjoyed listening along, you can like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Join the other 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we will catch you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.